Hi, how's it going? Welcome to Code with Z. In today's video, we gotta increment this number that we have here by 1. Why? Well, because that's what LeetCode 66 plus 1 is asking us to do. As you can see, it says you're given a large integer represented as an integer array, digits. So basically this that we have here, this basically represents 123. And all of this here tells us that we need to add one number to it. So for example, because we have 123, we gotta make this 124, but we gotta return this as an array. And this problem is really simple. So if this was the case, we would just get this number and we will just increment it by 1 and then we're gonna return it. But what if we have this? Well, if we increment 129, that's gonna give us 130. And if you take a look, this one is a little bit different. We turned this into 0 and we had a carry here. So we basically incremented this as well. And that's why we have 130. So we gotta make sure that we actually take care of that. So if the number that we have here, the last number that we have is actually not smaller than 9, we gotta make sure that we turn this into 0 and increment the next number. But what if we have this, right? This is also like a number. Well, if we increment this, this is gonna be also 0 and then we're gonna have a carry. And would you look at that? Again, this is gonna be 0 and then we're gonna have another carry. And would you look at that? This is gonna be also 0 and then we're gonna have another carry and that's gonna give us this. So we gotta make sure that if we actually come across this edge case, we make sure these all are zeros and we add 1 to the beginning of our array. That's basically it. Now let's code this in the simplest way possible. Alrighty, so our code is gonna be really simple. We're just gonna have one simple for loop. It's gonna be a reverse loop. So we're gonna say for let I being equal to digits dot length minus 1, and we want to keep on looping as long as I is greater or equal to 0, and we want to decrement I on each round. So just a simple reverse for loop. And the reason it's reversed is because we actually start from the end. We want to increment the number at the end. So we're going to say if digits basically at the index of I is smaller than 9, just like we saw in the slides, literally, we're going to say digits at that index should be equal to digits at that index plus 1. So we just incremented it. And then we want to return the array itself because we're done. This was the first case that we saw. But if that was not the case, meaning the number that we have at the end is actually 9, we're going to say digits at the index of I should be equal to 0. Because as we saw, we turned every 9 into 0 and then we added carry, right? But as you can see, we are inside a loop. So when we actually get to the next round, this part of our code is actually going to take care of that, because when we actually say we have a carry, that means we just need to increment it, right? So even for example, if our number is like 129, when we actually turn the 9 into 0, we need to make the 2 into 3, right? And this code is going to take care of that because it's going to be a reverse loop. And after we're done with the 9, we're going to come to the 2 and we're going to increment it. And then we're just going to return it like so. Now we only have to take care of the last edge case. And that's when we have, for example, 999 like so. So if that's the case and we didn't actually return anything inside of our for loop, that means we've actually had a bunch of 9s that were turned into 0. And now we only have to add 1 to the beginning of our array, just like we saw on the slide. So we're going to say digits unshift. And this is going to basically add an element to the beginning of our array. And that element is going to be 1. And then we're just going to return digits like so. This is going to be all of our code. Now let's run it and see if we're going to get accepted. Moment of truth. And yep, we got accepted. That's awesome. Let's submit it and see if we're going to pass all of the test cases. And yep, that's awesome. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe and keep on coding.